The PS4's pros and cons. We're going to be talking about the PlayStation 4, its positive and negative aspects, coming out later this year. Oh, stay tuned. But before we get to this video, let's get to the question of the day. Alright, so stay tuned to the end of this video to find out the answer to the question of the day. Alright, so let's talk about the PS4's pros and cons. We'll begin with pros and then cons and alternate between the two. Here we go. Pro, new system equals new graphics. That's right. Well, basically you have a new powerful console, the PS4, so we can expect something better looking. And the graphics are going to be so much more in the next level. It's next gen. Everything will be a little bit more realistic looking. They can do much more things in terms of visual aspects. You're talking about different facial expressions, more realistic movements and animations from characters, and better detailed environments, and hopefully a lot less, in terms of flickering. You see a lot of that. See a lot of pop-ins and things like that, and hopefully that the next generation it will be a lot more smooth looking, basically. So visually, that's definitely a pro. Con, expensive price. Oh yes, this system is not going to be cheap when it comes out. You know it's going to be at least $400, and that's going to be a strain on anybody's budget if they want to play this right away. So only the rich people can afford systems when they come out. I mean, people have a lot of money to spend and waste on this. It's definitely going to be a very pricey item. It's going to be expensive. Everything's going to cost a lot. Brand new price. What are you going to do? And it's going to take a while for the system to get a price cut. I mean, to get like a $299 model or $199, when you get to that $200 price point, it's going to take several years at least. How long did the PS3, when it turned slim, become $200? What, 2009? So, well, like 3 years, really, after the original model came out. Pro, new exclusives. That's right, you have brand new games that are not mainstay, aren't familiar games that we've seen already, and that's a good thing, because if you have new exclusives, you have new characters, new names, and it feels kind of fresh. You have stuff like Knack, alright, and it's like, wow, that's brand new, that looks really cool. I'd like to try it. It's a different type of game, it's a different name, and if it's a brand new exclusive, it makes the system worth checking out. There's a mystery behind it. Con, DLC that'll cost extra beyond the $60. Now, Sony has said that they're going to have $60, that's the limit of their games. But really, they're going to have DLC, download content. They'll have that. They'll have extra stuff that isn't included in the game. Realistically, it should already be in there. And that's going to be the same thing as usual. It's going to be the same exact type of money-grubbing techniques that everybody is sick and tired of. The $60 game is not going to have everything in it, and so it's just more of the same nonsense, and people are just tired of it, and we're going to get more of it. Pro, it's a PC-type engine, which means it's better for game development, and so you'll have these smoother games, and hopefully the developers will actually have an easier time creating these games for the PlayStation 4. This means that they'll be able to make better use of the engine and the graphics and the memory behind it, and so not produce these games that have a lot of lagging issues and all these technical problems that current PS3 games have, the third-party ones especially. Con, outdated technology right on release. Unfortunately, just like with pretty much every Sony system, when it comes out, It's new, but it's already outdated. You see, it's not going to support 4K. Alright, it got, what, 1080p? Or 1080i, whatever, native. And it's not going to have 4K support for games. That's already outdated to begin with, because 4K is the latest technology. It's definitely more powerful than 1080 in terms of, resolution. So you're not going to get the highest resolution available. You know that the actual engine of this thing, of the PS3, is already going to be outdated compared to, the most powerful PCs out there. And, I mean, it's got a massive memory size, but really, the actual internal physical components of the PS3, not the PS3, the PS4. Sorry, I still have PS3 in the mind. The PS4 will be outdated. So, I mean, come on. Pro. New controller will have motion sensors. That's right, it's going to have motion sensors. Basically, it's kind of like, it's kind of like the 6-axis system, except I'm sure it's going to be a lot better. Alright, it sounds like they've implemented this technology to make it a lot more usable, basically, and not like the worthless, superfluous 6-axis crap that we got with the PS3 controller. This one seems like, because it's going to have the motion sensors in there, it's going to be a lot more effective and be, implemented in games in a more successful way. So more games will feature moving the PS4 controller around, and whether it's a flying game or, a segment with, a character moving on the screen, somehow being able to use that controller in such a way that kind of, it feels almost like a flight simulator or something like that, or, just have a different experience with that controller. And the new motion sensors feels a bit more fresh. Con, well, see, the shitty new controller has non-removable batteries. You see, the crappy thing about the controller, it's just the same as the PS3 in terms of the batteries. It's going to be stuck in there, you can't remove it and take it out. So basically, if it breaks, which, PS3 does, the battery dies inside. You have your PS4 controller and the battery is not functioning anymore, you can't charge it up. What are you going to do? You can't really replace it. How are you going to replace that thing? Take apart the controller? Really? You gotta do it yourself? Can anybody really do that? It has non-removable batteries. They stay in there. So if they die, you gotta buy a new one. Pretty much. Unless you know some expert that might... I mean, I don't even know how it works. I've never taken apart a PS3 controller, and never even considered it. But people have... They've had their, PS3 controllers, the battery dies out. And that can happen with any item that has rechargeable batteries. It's unfortunate because I can't believe you can't take it out. It's just, it's pathetic, but, Pro, the PlayStation Eye is already bundled with the system. So the PSI is already with the PS4, meaning that you're going to have sort of this Connect type thing. Well, the PSI came out first, obviously, but you don't even need to buy it separately. So that's kind of cool. Whatever kind of potential that thing has, and being able to actually have some sort of camera thing on the PS4 is already positive, because you can use it for games and whatever, recording a video. It's kind of like getting a free camera. Con, useless trophies make a comeback. Yes, right, the stupid trophies return. They were always useless, especially on the PS3. Even the PSP has trophies for some reason, or games for the PSP. It's just really pathetic and worthless and useless. I've never been a fan of trophies. They're distracting, they're annoying, and they stink. They're terrible. I've never gotten anything good out of trophies. Now, if you can earn some sort of money or some sort of thing where if you accrue enough trophies and exchange it for some sort of item on PSN, like a free game, or not a free game, but you can buy it for games, but you can't really do that, can you? Trophies suck. Pro, you can open up the web browser during the gameplay. Yeah, so whatever you're using, I mean, I don't know what they have for the Sony, you know, I don't know, some sort of Internet Explorer type thing, and you can, you know, browse the internet, I guess, during a gameplay. That's kind of cool. Maybe you can look up a game fact or something, or check an email. Con: no backward compatibility with the PS3 or older systems. This basically makes the system pretty worthless when it comes to having a PS3 type games in there. If you have legacy games and PS2, PS1, you're not going to be able to play them on the PS4, which you really should have it. You got this brand new next-gen system and you can't play old games. Something is wrong with this picture. And you know, it's Sony just trying to, you know, they're trying to jerk you out of your, you know, whatever potential money you can save from, you know, it's pathetic. It's lame. They want you to buy all their systems for all the games, rather. It's very cheap. You know, it's very. It's not enough. It isn't. All right. Here's another pro. Highly anticipated Watch Dogs game is releasing for PS4 as a launch title. And a lot of people are already fans of Watch Dogs. I mean, the game looks good. It looks interesting. It could be one of those killer apps or whatever. It's going to come up with PS4 as a launch game. It's a very strong title because it's highly anticipated. Everybody's into this thing. Oh my god, Watch Dogs. What's it all about? It looks like one of those games that could be the swan song for that PS3 era. And yet the PS4 is getting it. So it's like, wow. Cool. Alright, here's another con. Games are still overpriced at $60. That's right, instead of getting $70, oh, we're gonna stick to $60, but guess what? That's not even a positive. Because $60 is still overpriced to begin with, you know? That's a ridiculous price point. And unfortunately, that's become the normal price for current-gen games. The fact that games are still going to be $60, and that's just a base game, you know. I mean, games shouldn't be $60 to begin with. Games should be around maybe $40 to $50. $50 at the most. But, I mean, they're way too pricey. You buy 2 games, brand new ones, and that's $120 plus right there. And what a complete waste of money. Considering the fact that, you know, within like a couple of years after a game comes out, it's usually $20, $10, you know what I mean, at that point. Somewhere between there. So, you know, you just shake your head like, what a waste of money. Pro, you can use mobile devices like smartphones and the PS Vita to view in-game maps during gameplay. That's kind of helpful. I've always been annoyed with having to pause the game. For example, Grand Theft Auto or anything else that has a map, and then you have to pause it to see the actual map and you have to browse through it, and it's just a waste of time. It sort of kills the momentum of a game. It'd be nice to actually have the map right in front of you, and if you can look at it on the Vita or some other screen, that's kind of cool. Con: Diablo 3 will be a really shit version compared to the PC original version. This is going to be a port, but I don't expect this game to be any good compared to the PC, because just like in any traditional, you know, type of strategy or some sort of role-playing game or some sort of game like that, it just doesn't work on the console nearly as well as the PC. So Diablo 3 is going to be, it's going to stink on the PS4. Here's a pro. Unified memory is going to be 16 times the amount of the PS3. That's massive. So you basically have 16 PS3s in a PS4. Basically, I mean, in terms of the memory power, and it's... that's a massive amount. I can't even imagine how much, like, the sizes of the games they're going to release. It's going to be, yeah, my god, like an Uncharted or something like that, where they utilize the entire, you know, Blu-ray disc. That's going to be insane. Con: Final Fantasy 15 is scheduled to release as well on the PS4. Final Fantasy? Why is this franchise still around? Final Fantasy hasn't been relevant in years. It's not even good anymore. Nobody cares about FF anymore. It's a shitty franchise that is past its prime. It hasn't been hot since Final Fantasy X, and that was 11 years ago? You know, I mean, come on. Give me a break. Final Fantasy 15? Who cares? It's a negative because it just indicates that they still put out Final Fantasy games. God. Alright, here's a pro. Used games are still allowed on the PS4. I don't have to explain this one. You have used games. I mean, yeah, it's a right, and it pretty much is like an entitlement, but the fact that they haven't taken it away is good. You can still play used games. Now, it depends on the publishers, I guess, if they want to implement it, because I guess they have the power to turn it off in their games, but at least the PS4 will still play used games. Here's a con. It doesn't have the classic PlayStation charm. Let's be honest, man. PlayStation hasn't been the same since the PS3. But at least with the PS3, you still had a little bit of some of that old school. I mean, even with the PS2, it started to kind of die off. At this point, it's unrecognizable almost to have a PlayStation system. I mean, it's like the PS4 is going to have no mascots, no familiar names like Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, Tomb Raider, Tekken, Gran Turismo, Jak and Daxter, Sly, any of these, you know, classic mascots that were familiar, that we grew up with in the early days. Compare Sony's mascots to Nintendo. It's not even close. Nintendo has a longevity type thing. They have a legacy, man. They have a long-lasting empire. Mario, Zelda, I mean, Donkey Kong, Kirby, you know, Star Fox, all these things keep coming back. It's not the same with Sony, you know, they don't have like mascots. They don't have legacy titles like that. It just doesn't have that old school classic PlayStation coolness. Alright, here's another pro. It's supposedly more powerful than the Wii U and the 720, making it the best technologically. So if you want a really good system, the best one, supposedly the PS4 is the strongest out of all of them, even the 720. I don't know why people say it, but that's like the speculated belief. Con. The official name, the PS4, really? That is so unoriginal, it's very redundant. It's a stupid name, PS4. I mean, come on, we've heard it before. PS1, PS2, PS3, and it just goes on. I mean, numerically, it's very boring. It's not fresh. Like, it just sounds so hacky at this point to call it a PS4. They could have called it something else, but PS4, wow, how original, Sony. Ugh. Alright, so this was the answer to the question of the day.